Kellen Moore was at the podium talking about the New Orleans Saints and what they've gotten accomplished here early on in practice. And I want to spend some time talking about the secondary. We did a little bit of that with Ross Jackson at the top of the hour, but we spent more time certainly on quarterbacks and then towards the fronts when they put the pads on. And I want to talk a little bit about the secondary because you know this. When Dennis Allen was with the Saints, whether it was defensive coordinator or head coach, they did an exceptional job of identifying young DBs, drafting them, bringing them in, developing them, and they got great defensive back play. It started with Lattimore, obviously, but you could even go to a Debo, who was really good. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson played exceptionally well. They developed some really good safeties. Marcus Williams was a really good player. They got good young defensive back play when Dennis Allen was there because that was kind of his position, and he did a great job of cultivating that. He did a lot of things really, really poorly. He did that really well. And so now you don't have that to kind of lean on, even though he did draft some of these guys. And the first guy I want to talk about is Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is a guy that Dennis Allen did identify and bring him in. And Kellen Moore spoke to Kool-Aid's camp as we've gotten to about a week and a half.
This has been a big-time camp for Kool-Aid. He's played phenomenal. His confidence every single day. He's just making a ton of plays, and you can just see his ability to transition in the coverage game is really, really good.
Nick Saban liked McKinstry a lot, and I realize he's not going to get on draft coverage and trash a guy that he recruited and developed. And so I will take it with a touch of salt there. But, I think that Nick, generally speaking, is telling the truth in a lot of things he does on there. He did admit that he's going to pick Alabama more often than not because he's not going to turn his back on the players that he may have signed at some point. And I do get all that stuff. He's not under a mandate here to be completely truthful all the time when there are relationships involved. I understand. But I think he probably does think Kool-Aid McKinstry is a pretty damn good player. And we saw a little bit of it last year, but we also saw him get beat a little bit last year when he was thrust into action when the Saints got significantly hurt at the defensive back spot. But Kellen Moore spoke about Kool-Aid and the impression that Kellen Moore had once he took the job.
Certainly felt like he was going to be, like we've always talked about, that second year big jump. Sometimes that first year, obviously for him, dealing with some injuries, slows you down a little bit in that first year. This was going to be a second year jump. We felt really confident that was going to be. When I was in Philly, we thought really, really highly of him, and certainly Brandon did, during the draft process the year before as well when he was in San Francisco. So we felt like we were going to create a really, really good opportunity there for him.
It's that reminds me a little bit, to bring it back to Baton Rouge from New Orleans, of Jay Johnson talking about guys he noticed in recruiting, and now they're playing against him even though he's didn't land them. And you're talking about Staley and Kellen Moore, who saw Kool-Aid McKinstry as kind of a prospect at one point, and then all of a sudden ends up in New Orleans, and now they've got a chance to coach him. And you really, really hope that Kool-Aid McKinstry becomes an excellent player out wide, and you hope that Alontae Taylor becomes an excellent player out wide, because if you can get some of these young draft picks to be for certain hits, you can start to not worry about plugging that hole. The Saints have so many holes on this roster. You've got to find some plugs, and these are your short-term plugs at corner that you hope become long-term plugs. Quincy Riley is a guy that the Saints drafted this year, and you heard Ross Jackson talking about him 30 minutes ago on the show and how he's a guy that makes a lot of plays on the ball. He did that at Louisville, and he's now doing that in camp. And Kellen Moore talked about what he's seen from the rookie DB early on.
Yeah, he finds the ball and he attacks the football. I think that's one thing that we saw on film coming into the draft process. He's a ball guy. That's what you need on the back end. Mistakes are going to happen, but when you create turnovers, those impact games.
That is 100% true. There is such a difference between the guy who is physical with long arms, who can run and flip his hips, to the guy who can just go play the ball. His eyes tend to find the ball. He's great getting his head around and identifying things. He can read body language on receivers, and then has the ability, which some DBs don't, to actually catch it, which is a pretty big deal. And Riley did a ton of that in college. And if you can harness that and then bring it to the next level, those are game-changing plays. I love pass breakups on defense. Trust me. Great. Interceptions, preferable. And Quincy Riley does that. And we've seen it now multiple times in Saints camp. And you talk to Sharif on Tuesdays, talk to Luke on Thursdays, and we had Ross Jackson on today talking about, hey, this guy is making these plays almost daily. And you start to feel like he's making an impression on Saints camp. And one of those interceptions came off of Spencer Rattler, and Kellen Moore talked about what he saw from the second-year quarterback throwing the ball and then the rookie cornerback making a play on it.
It'll be awesome one to watch on film and just have those conversations with the players just to make sure we're good. I thought it was a good, initially there was certainly we gave ourselves a chance. It was a good ball. Unfortunately, I think Quincy made a phenomenal play going and attacking the football, similar to Julian a couple days ago when he was in here attacking the football. I think our DBs are doing a great job of locating the football, and we got cleaned up on the offense side to see it and give ourselves a chance.
It's funny because this time of year, whether we're covering LSU, we're covering the Saints, we're talking about big plays. And when you see a big play, it's like, oh, that's awesome that X did that. And then you also have to flip it on his head and go, well, who screwed up? Like, who allowed that to happen? And what you really want is for it to be a great play all around. If Rattler makes a good read and puts the ball in a place where his receiver can go get it, and the DB just does a better job, well, that's ideal. You don't want Rattler just making an absolute miss of a ball, missing his window by 3 feet and having an easy interception because the ball's 2 steps behind the receiver, and you don't want to just miss a safety coming over or a linebacker that's dropping into coverage that you don't see and put it right in their face mask. If you're going to have the ball turned over by the quarterbacks, you'd like it to be, okay, a committed read, guy that's down the field, you make the throw, and if the DB goes and makes a heck of a play, as Kellen Moore termed it, take his words, not mine, well, then you've accomplished what you were looking for there on that play. You want the defense to make some plays, and if the offense isn't just completely screwing up in the process, that's a good thing. And so it's good to hear the Kool-Aid's off to a good start. Quincy Riley's off to a good start. You feel like you've got some young pieces there that you can work with, but they've got to develop. And this is the time for development right now when you're early on in training camp. So there's a look at some New Orleans Saints in the secondary. It was a stalwart position for the entirety of Dennis Allen's run in New Orleans. Now he's not here as a security blanket. What can the black and gold do to restock those shelves and to become one of the better secondaries in the conference? Once again, those two guys can be a big help. We'll see moving forward. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.